From the Alex Trebek stage at Sony Picture Studios, this is Inside Jeopardy!
Oh, I needed this today. I needed Johnny. I needed his axe. I needed Inside Jeopardy! Welcome back, everyone. Your exclusive and official podcast destination for all things happening in the world of Jeopardy! I'm Michael Davies. I'm joined today by producer Sarah Foss.
Michael, I haven't been able to catch up with you since Johnny Gilbert was actually on the axe for your birthday.
That was very nice. The Jeopardy! Social team put together a photograph. I have a feeling you guys had something to do with it. And it was Johnny with an axe. That was very nice. Thank you for all of the birthday wishes.
Yes, nothing like Johnny Gilbert on an inflatable guitar.
Yeah, I should say I'm only 58. Jeopardy's 60 years old this year.
Yes.
I'm a young and sprightly 58 at this point.
Yes. Jeopardy's got 2 years on you. We're looking forward to celebrating that birthday as well at the end of the month. But right now in JPT, it's all about regular Jeopardy, Michael.
Yes, Jeopardy! Production time. This week,
yes,
we are back on the Alex Trebek stage with regular Virginia contestants, regular episodes building towards the next postseason. And I think all of us have got a little bit of a spring in our step about this. We're very excited and almost looking forward. This is like to exercise a muscle that we haven't exercised for a little while.
Yes, and just like you don't know the day before Ken Jennings comes in for his first taping, or Amy Schneider, or Matt Emoti, or James Holzhauer, we could have the next great Jeopardy! Super champion coming to studio this week. You never know.
Yeah, I'm not going to spend too much time going into the whys and wherefores of why we've had so many tournaments. I'm really delighted with how the postseason has turned out. I can't wait for everybody to see the rest of it, the rest of TOC, and our inaugural Jeopardy! Invitational tournament, which I think we mentioned last time is just extraordinary television. But we do understand that there is some tournament fatigue. Look, very clearly, this was not a situation that we really wanted. Yes, the postseason is really important to me, but we intended the postseason to happen, back in October, November, and to be done with, and for us to have been in regular episodes for a long time. One big thing, which I think is going to assuage a lot of concerns, is that we have decided, and I'm announcing here today, that we're going to move the postseason permanently. Can I say permanently? Certainly until I change my mind at some point again in the future, or somebody or a future executive producer changes their mind on something I've done. We're going to move the postseason to the first quarter. So it will play in January, February going forward. The February book sweeps is a very important time for our stations. It's a time of year when a lot of people are watching television. It's still winter. It also helps us avoid some other issues with playing our postseason in November. The election every year, but particularly this year, I think is going to be very disruptive to television viewing. We get a lot of preemptions. I think a lot of you know, where you live in major sports markets. We get a lot of preemptions for NFL football. We get a lot of preemptions for basketball and even hockey due to the collapse of the regional sports networks. So by going into February with our postseason, post the football season, it will be very, very good for the majority of our viewers. So I think that's going to be really good for us, and we're just really excited now to embark upon a long stretch of regular episodes.
Yeah, and we're also taking into account, we'll see what are the number of champions we have, what are the number of really qualified second chancers we have. We are going to have a bit of a shortened postseason that we are anticipating as well. So for those of you who are concerned about regular Jeopardy, you're going to have a lot of it coming up starting in April.
Yeah, I think that's also a very key point. The postseason itself, even for a single season, will be shorter in future years because there will be less build-up events into it. And so Jeopardy is going to become more normalized. And so then, there'll be new points for people to make. I enjoy practical suggestions for changes made to Jeopardy. It's what I think about all of the time. There is actually a Reddit thread with suggestions for season 41. I just want to congratulate and thank everyone who contributed to that. It started a lot of conversation around the Jeopardy offices and between between Sarah and I. I think, one of the biggest things is this sense that, and we've heard this a lot, we've spoken about it before on this podcast, is that some parts of our audience get very lost within the gameplay, which, when the show went on the air, people tended to pick a category, usually on the left-hand side of the board, and go down sequentially down the category, and then they'd start a new category and they'd go down it. Now, with all of the daily double hunting, people jump all over. They go maybe to the deeper dollar values first and then go up across the board. We have an issue now in the that I find all the time in Double Jeopardy, where the end of Double Jeopardy, instead of being about the highest dollar values, instead of what a regular quiz show would do where the dollar values increase throughout the half hour, at the end of Double Jeopardy, we tend to be playing for the lowest dollar amounts at the end of that round. That can also work sometimes, but that tends to happen. I don't think we would ever, or I think it would ever be natural for Jeopardy to dictate to our players that they have to play the game in a certain order. I want our players to adjust their tactics within the game. We see that in every sport. We see players, they understand what the rules are, then they try and figure out a new way to play. So I don't think we'd ever do that. I do continue to think that we need to, with a 16:9, aspect ratio, with people getting bigger and better televisions with better picture quality, I think that there is some more we can do to help the viewer. One change we made last year in Celebrity that I still find remarkable that we didn't get more people commenting on was that we left the 3 contestants on the right-hand side of the screen so that you could see the full game board when people were choosing categories. And we also highlighted the categories at the point they chose them so that you had a real geographical sense of where the clue was coming from. We put it into Celebrity and not into the regular show because I was terrified there was going to be outcry from the audience about that being a change. We barely heard a peep about it. So maybe that's something that we should put into the Monday through Friday show, immediately. It definitely helps with the geography of the program and understanding where the category is. And I think we'll continue to look at ways to bring the category into the full screen with the clue, where the category will find place. The difficult thing is that on one text frame, you make a tiny change on a game like Jeopardy, and it does have a further effect. That's something I've learned from doing games for a long time. It's why you have to be very careful with changes. The show is already quite text heavy, and now adding a category as well to the clue when all we want people really doing is trying to figure out how to solve the clue, it does make a change. I don't think we've made a perfect change. We have briefed the contestants to give full names of categories.
We did, and then, people have commented on that. We've obviously gone back. If it's a 12-word category, we're not asking you to repeat all 12 words. It's also very important for our board operator.
Yes, this was not really motivated for the audience. What the
category and the value is so that she can enable the correct clue to pop out.
Yes,
because if
absolutely.
she misunderstands what the contestant has said or gets it confused and pops something out incorrectly, that causes us to have to stop down.
Yeah, it was getting a little informal. But anyway, that's something which we're continuing to look at. We're continuing to look at the ways visually that our game plays. If you regular viewers of the show will notice that camera moves, the open, the various looks.
Yeah, more audience shots.
They're gradually changing. Our director, Russell Norman, has definitely added a little bit more and continues to experiment and figure out what to do.
Well, and you brought up that point about showing the game board throughout, and I think it's come up in recent games where those last few clues, those of us at the judges table and those in the audience, exactly how much value is left on the game board. And if someone can actually catch up, if they have a chance to make it not a runaway, those moments are so exciting. And I think that's one of the ideas I like about being able to see the game board throughout, is to really know what amount of money is still up on that board and how much a player can change their position, in those last clues of the game.
Yeah.
One of the things people talked about was the increase in the second place and third place prizing. And these regular games this is going to be the first time that we get to see, $2,000 for third place and $3,000 for second place. So that's going to be exciting for our contestants that they are going home with more money. I saw people commenting on the size of the tournaments, and obviously, we had many, many competitions and tournaments with 27 players this season, which was really just a result of trying to fill the weeks that we needed. And then, of course, we had that many more players who came out of these competitions that therefore were participating in TOC. We wanted JIT to have this full field, but I think certainly in next season's postseason, you won't be seeing these large, contested fields of 27 and similar.
Yeah. And then also the final thing I wanted to address is the contestant thing, is that, some of the comments, let former teen and college players come back. I think we feel very positive about that idea. We do feel that some of the, I think basically in the eligibility area, my desire is that the best possible Jeopardy players are on the Alex Trebek stage competing against other best possible Jeopardy players. Let's say you were on 20 years ago and you didn't win, multiple games, and you're not sort of on our radar. I sort of feel like I want that person back. I want that person taking the test, and I want them to, stand up and get a chance to go and come back on the show. Certainly for people who appeared on the show as teenagers and
kids,
we want to figure out another chance. So we're working on the eligibility requirements. I think there is sometimes a fear that on Jeopardy, as we build more, primetime versions, and we do celebrity and we build more tournaments, that we are going to overemphasize, contestants with big personalities over contestants who can play the game. Yes, having some great personalities on Jeopardy is important. We're an entertainment TV show. That's an important quality of it, but it's not the only thing. We need people who are great at playing our game, and that requires some people who are there because they do extraordinarily well on our test. But then we also need some people, we're just like any college, who aren't great test takers, but have the brains and they have the smarts to go and make it happen. We obviously don't reveal test scores. It's not something we do for lots of reasons. Plus, we have a responsibility, as I regard Jeopardy as an American institution, to represent the whole of America. And that means we need to find people from every state, from every kind of background, from every city, people of just different shapes and sizes. We need to see on this television program. And when we only put 400 on a year, that requires a lot of work behind the scenes.
Also, I want to point out our social team is wanting to collect questions for Ken. So if you have anything you've always wanted to ask Ken and you're not coming to a taping anytime soon, because we know that he answers questions there as well, feel free to head to our Instagram, submit your questions. You're going to get all your answers. Michael, in JAT, we have witnessed another fantastic week of games in the Tournament of Champions. We now know that Ben Chan and Yogesh Raut are headed to the Tournament of Champions finals, and today we're going to learn who the third player will be. Is it going to be Luigi de Guzman, Troy Meyer, or Brian Henniger? Be sure to tune in, everybody, today to find out, and then starting tomorrow, we're going to head straight into the finals, where the first player to win 3 games will be our TOC champion. But here on the pod today, we're going to be diving into the last 3 quarterfinal games and those first 2 semifinal games from last week. Plus, we are going to be speaking with Jeopardy writer Marcus Brown later in the show.
Oh, what a treat.
Can't wait for that. But first, as always, let's take a look back at this week in Jeopardy history.
Anders, we'll come to you first. Which woman did you think of? You came up with, who was Bonnie Parker? You're right. She and Clyde Barrow shot in 1934. You double your score to 16,000. Let's go to James Kirby. Wrote down his response rather quickly, and I will assume he got it right. Did he? Yes. Wager. Hello. 8,000. He doubles to 16,000 as we come to Scott Weiss. Scott, did you get Bonnie Parker? You did. What did you risk? Aha! 2,600, 16,000, the first time ever a 3-way tie. Enjoy the weekend. You'll all be back with us on Monday. No new players next week. Come see us then. So long.
It was Friday, March 16th, 2007, when we witnessed the first ever non-zero 3-way tie. As you just heard, Anders Martinsen, Jamie Kirby, and returning champion Scott Weiss all responded correctly to Final Jeopardy and finished the game with $16,000 each. This made history as our first 3-player co-champion game. Of course, this was before we had our tiebreaker rule, so they all spent the weekend as champions. They returned on that following Monday for a rematch. Jamie prevailed, becoming at that point a 2-game Jeopardy champion.
Oh, wonderful stuff.
Yeah, now we have a tiebreaker. Well, we kicked off the week with our 7th quarterfinal matchup between 13-game champion Ray Lalonde, 3-game champion Melissa Clapper, and Celebrity Jeopardy champion Ike Barinholtz. And wow, what a start to the week, Michael. All 3 players neck and neck in the Jeopardy round. Ike finds the first daily double in Double Jeopardy. He goes all in. $7,600 is correct, takes a strong lead. Melissa then took the lead with the help of an $8,000 daily double. She remains in the lead into final, but then Melissa was incorrect. Ike and Ray were correct. And it's Ike Barinholtz who secures the win and is in the semifinals.
Oh, and I am vindicated. I was nervous about this. Even when I said to my staff that I was going to invite the celebrity champion into the TOC, I was greeted with some looks. Not by you
No,
were always
I was
supportive,
all in.
Sarah, but there were certain looks that I was given. But Ike, without any doubt, proved himself with this win that this is a good idea, that our very best celebrities can play at this level and deserve to play at this level.
I love that. In the podcast last year, Michael, when you invited him and he said, when I get absolutely destroyed, just remember that I was very humble when I accepted. Fast forward to now, he's another Jeopardy champion on regular Jeopardy. I love it so much. His parents were in the audience, a lot of fans recognizing his dad, Alan Barinholtz, who was the judge on jury duty.
Yep.
So, he was getting love in the audience. They couldn't have been kinder. I mean, it was a kumbaya all around. Melissa went on Reddit to share her thoughts. She said, such a special honor to play with the legendary Ray, a true gentleman and scholar, and with Ike, who certainly proved himself not only a lifelong fan of the game, but also a worthy opponent. After the game, he gave his parents, who were sitting in the audience and beaming with pride, a big thank you for making Jeopardy part of his family experience growing up. Ken did have a chance to catch up with our players right after this epic game. Let's take a listen.
Congratulations to all 3 of you, because that was a fantastic game.
Yeah, thank you. It was. Can I please just say, I've watched both of you, and you guys are so incredible. It's such an honor to share the stage with you. So thank you guys so much. Really.
I mean, there were moments in that game where it kind of seemed like, Melissa had put it away, then Ray was looking good. Ike might have put it away with that daily double, but what was going on there? Was the buzzer giving any of you a hard time?
Yes, I was having a very hard time on the buzzer.
He is faster than you think.
Yes.
My goodness.
I practice at home.
Wow.
Ike, do you have any technique that's been working for
I
you?
have a little click pen at home, and I sit there and I click into answer, and I really annoy my family. So I'm just gonna keep doing that, I guess.
Now, you're a fan of Jeopardy, if I understand correctly.
Super fan.
You watch the show from time to time?
My parents, I think I've seen every episode for, 30 years or so, and they always would watch it with me, so it was a big show in our house.
But how did you think you were going to do in the Tournament of Champions? Let's be candid, now that you've got a win under your belt.
I did not think I would win.
I have to say, I really admire you coming back for this. I joked about being a lab rat or a pioneer, but in some ways, you're kind of both. You're like a Mercury astronaut. Can a celebrity survive the TOC?
And that worked out pretty well most of the time, so here we are.
Now we know. Now we know what the answer is. Well, congratulations, all 3 of you. That was a fantastic game. Good luck in the semifinals.
Yeah, his mother did also say to him after the game, it's like when his Ike walked up to his mom and dad, he goes, how about that? And his mom said, well, you still could have finished college, which I really enjoyed.
I love it. Well, moving on from the incredible Monday game to Tuesday with Ben Chan, Justin Bolson, and Emmett Stanton. Ben Chan dominated. He ended the Jeopardy round with an impressive $11,400, found the first 2 daily doubles, adding $7,600 to his score. Emmett had a chance to close the gap on the final daily double, but was unfortunately incorrect and couldn't recover, ending the Double Jeopardy round in the negative. Both Ben and Justin were correct in final, but it didn't matter. Ben had secured what he is known for, another runaway game. Impressive stats for Ben in this game, Michael. 28 correct responses, which is the most we've seen in the tournament so far, and a $24,000 Coriat, second behind only Yogesh.
Yeah, he's a great Jeopardy player. Calm. He's so chill before he plays and really brings it. I think to get a runaway on any game of Jeopardy is an achievement. To get a runaway in a major tournament against superb competition, and both Emmett and Justin. This was a really impressive win.
Yeah, and Emmett, you hate to ever see a player end in the red and not compete in final, but he went on Reddit to say, I never thought I'd win one game, let alone 3, and even after that, I never expected to make it to the TOC. The entire experience was all positive. When I stepped down from the podium before Ben and Justin started their final Jeopardy calculations, I got a standing ovation from a crowd full of Jeopardy legends, fans, and my new friends' families. I had a smile on my face the whole time, and when one of the contestant coordinators switched into consolation mode, I was able to honestly say I didn't need any consoling because I had had the time of my life. P.S., and I love this part, take the test. It's free, it's online, it's anytime. You heard it from Emmett.
Yes,
this
fantastic.
Could be you.
Fantastic.
Well, moving on to Wednesday's matchup between Troy Meyer, Deb Bilodeau, and Sean McShane. Another fantastic game. Troy got out to a hot start, ending the Jeopardy round with the lead, but then Sean was close behind. Troy then finds both of the daily doubles in Double Jeopardy, adding $15,800 to his score, and from there cruised into a no-doubt runaway win, securing the final spot in the semifinals. More impressive stats here. 28 correct responses, tied with Ben for the most in the tournament. $38,400 in Double Jeopardy. That's his score. That's the highest we've seen so far. He ends the game with that same total, second highest behind only Luigi, and is Corey at $25,400 behind only Yogesh. Wow.
There's so much I can say about Troy. What a Jeopardy player. What just a man who just walked into that. I mean, we talked already about the fraternity and sorority between our players, and Troy is just a giant amongst all of these players, partly like Yogesh because of what he's achieved in the world of quizzing, and just such a well-liked figure in this world. But I gotta say something about Deb and Sean. These are two players I really enjoy. Deb made me laugh so much, always had a grin on my face every time they were telling stories or the way they were interacting with Ken or their fellow players. A really wonderful Jeopardy player, just a wonderful character. And Sean McShane, I watch Masters of the Air every week, and I constantly expect Sean to turn up playing a young American navigator in one of those planes. He's got such a throwback look, just a great character, and really just added to the whole fun of this tournament.
I don't know if you've ever done the Freedom Trail Tour in Boston, but, Sean McShane is a tour guide.
That's what he does, yeah.
I've done it, but I want to do it with Sean. That's all I know.
Yeah, it'll be excellent.
I'm going to take my kids this summer, I think. Well, Ken was also very impressed by Troy's performance. Let's take a listen to their post-game chat.
Just looking over your stat line, Troy, 28 correct responses. That's better than anybody in the first round except for Ben Chan, with whom you are tied.
I'll get you, Chan.
You looked like your heart wasn't really in that, Troy. I don't know if you're ever going to be a pro wrestler.
I'll get you, Chan.
There we go. Deb and Sean, you played very well. That was a tough draw.
Thank you.
Valiant effort, I think. You both had around $7,000, $8,000. I mean, against almost $40K. That's tough. Was it buzzer? Were you getting locked out?
I definitely was.
Yeah, I felt like I was fighting for my life on the buzzer. Troy was insanely quick.
You put on quite a performance. You vacuumed up all the daily doubles, but also the high value amounts. You were doing very well at the $2,000 level. Do you like those harder clues?
Yeah. I've trained hard for this, Ken. I'm here to win.
Wow. What is training for you? I know you have a very elite and competitive bar trivia team. What else have you been up to?
Flashcarding. I've been running, trying to correct all the things that went wrong the first time.
I see. You looked the game tape of your original appearance.
Yes, yeah.
And you're here to win it.
Yep.
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't bet against you. That was quite a game. Congratulations, Troy.
Thank you.
We'll see you in the semifinals.
All right. Well, now we're going to head into Thursday, where we kicked off the semifinals with Jared Watson, Ben Chan, and Ike Barinholtz. Jared and Ben started off strong, splitting the daily doubles, but Ben was correct and Jared was not, effectively dropping him out of contention. Then Ike kicks it up, managing to keep himself in contention, ending the round only $4,800 behind Ben. Final was a triple stumper, and Ben's minimal wager got him the win and the first spot in the finals. Nobody can stop talking about the wagering on this one, Michael.
Yeah, including Ike, who certainly has been thinking about it ever since.
Yes, even his parents. I was actually backstage when they reunited with him after the semifinals, and they said the same thing. And he goes, I know, the wagering, but there's so much to think about. You know, we can all sit back, armchair quarterbacking this and say what we would have done, but what you think about in that moment, you know, Ike's playing in the Tournament of Champions in the semifinals. And, you know, he talked about it with Ken in the post-game chat. Let's take a listen.
The Persians.
The Persians.
You were very close, Ike.
I was floating around in there somewhere.
You were the closest of the three responses.
Well, that's cold comfort, but I'll take it.
It's going to get a little colder. You were in second place by less than $5,000. If you had bet nothing, and everybody gets it wrong.
Do you think that's not in my head right now?
I'm just here to be the annoying little voice in your head. Tell us about the wager. Why'd you go big?
I've just watched Ben play a lot, and I thought he was going to go all in. And so I was just like, you know, there's a phrase, go hard or go home. And I went hard, and now I'm going home. So I don't know if that's a good phrase, but I had to take a shot.
The phrase was correct. Well, you certainly played well. You showed you had every right to be in this tournament. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And we closed out the week with David Sibley, Yogesh Raut, and Emily Sands. Yogesh and Emily battled through the Jeopardy round, with Yogesh taking a small lead heading into Double Jeopardy. Emily found the first daily double in Double Jeopardy, goes all in, $7,600 worth, but was incorrect, giving Yogesh a commanding lead. Emily and David tried their best to recover, but Yogesh really caught fire on the buzzer, ending the round with $21,400 and a runaway win.
Yeah, a runaway in a semi-final game in a Tournament of Champions. We're seeing like the best of his gameplay right now. We're seeing him play at the top of his ability, and we're seeing him literally, you know, decimate the field.
Yeah, we saw such a sweet side to Yogesh in that game. You know, at the end, he wrote, Emily was my good luck charm with his final Jeopardy response. And he, you know, held up his friendship bracelet. And at that point, we learned that Emily had made friendship bracelets for all the TOC field. And Yogesh was sporting his, you know, Ken joked, oh, it's like the Eras tour up in here. But, you know, that's just more of that camaraderie that we continue to see.
All 27 of these players were just excited for each other and excited to play with each other, and showed so much respect for each other throughout the entire tournament.
Well, let's hear what Yogesh had to say, talking with Ken right after the game about heading to the finals.
Now, we didn't see it in the scores, perhaps, but this was really a duel between Yogesh and Emily. But it came down to the big daily double wager. But you played very well against a tough champ, Yogesh Raut. You're headed to the finals. Congratulations. Did you enjoy that game? It looked like you were almost having fun.
Almost. Not quite.
On the brink of it.
There's a threshold. I don't think I quite reached it.
Well, you've got at least 3 more to figure out to have fun on stage.
It's true. You're going to play 3 more times.
I have to get a sense of humor, apparently.
You've got somewhere between 3 and 7 games to do it. I think it's not going to be a problem. Yogesh, we'll see you in the finals. Well done.
Thank you.
All right, that's it for this week's game highlights. It's now time to head into our host chat. An audience member asked Ken, what do you do to unwind?
Watch a lot of movies. Big movie guy. I like to hike. I've got 2 dogs now, and they're much more agreeable about going to the park with me than my kids have been for years. My kids are like 21 and 17, so they don't want to go for a walk with me. But luckily, I got, you know, a golden retriever with tons of energy. So that's how we relax. I got into kayaking during the pandemic. That's nice in Seattle. It's a good kayak city.
Who knew? Ken, big kayaker, Michael. How are you feeling about kayaking?
Well, I enjoy kayaking in theory. I've done a little bit of kayaking in my life.
Yeah, it's one of those things that sounds like a great idea on vacation, and then wherever you're headed feels closer until you start paddling, me with my husband, and then it turns out to be a very bad idea about halfway through.
You know, English schools at the age of 11, they divide you into you're either a dry bob or a wet bob, and the dry bobs play rugby and cricket and football and run, and the wet bobs sail and row and kayak and canoe.
Okay.
And I was a dry bob. I was never a wet bob. I'm the son of a wet bob. My father was a wet bob. My mother was a dry bob, and so I certainly was a dry bob throughout school.
Well, now it is time for a part of the pod that I have been looking forward to. Let's welcome our newest writer on the Jeopardy team, Marcus Brown, already making quite a name for yourself, I would say, in the Jeopardy world. But Tell me about your Jeopardy journey. We always ask contestants about their journey on making it to Jeopardy. Tell me about your journey to become a writer.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I started out 7 years ago now. I was at a Dodgers game with a friend of mine, and he happened to know someone who worked at Jeopardy, and I expressed interest, being, you know what I'd really like to do? I'd like to write for Jeopardy. And then he happened to know Michael Harris. That was the person who I kind of befriended, and eventually when there was a job opening at Jeopardy, he let me know about it, and I applied and became a researcher for about 6 years, I guess, until I got my promotion just last year.
So Michael Harris, known in Inside Jeopardy circles as the enabler.
Yes, the enabler.
Because he hits the enable button, but also one of
Career
our
enabler.
top
Who
researchers.
knew?
Yeah, career enabler also. But even before that fateful Dodgers game, what was your relationship with Jeopardy as a viewer?
Oh, I would watch it every night in high school with my dad, then in college with my friends. I was big into like trivia, basically, all my, adult life. And even in high school, I was on like the academic team. We made it to like a nationals of sorts in Florida. So yeah, kind of like, in and out. Been involved in,
Which flavor of Florida did you grow up in?
Oh, I grew up in New York, but it was the Nationals were in Florida. They were in Orlando, so we got to go to
Jamlando.
Disneyland. Yeah.
When we talk to Billy and Michelle, they often say, they believe the best path to becoming a writer is to be a researcher, certainly something the two of them did. How do you think that being a researcher allows you to kind of mold yourself into a Jeopardy writer?
Well, I think a lot of the writing job is researching. When it comes to researching, I think all of us, we're like that kind of person who can find anything online within, 2 to 3 minutes. Like, if you're like dating someone, we could like find someone really fast,
We've asked you to do similar things over the years.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not above it, yes.
Exactly. So, it comes in handy, when you're writing about, 50 clues a day or however many clues a day, or when you're trying to find out like the fifth name of like an Indonesian spider on tape day when a contestant comes up with another response. So there's a lot of researching that goes along with writing.
Do you remember the first category you researched?
Yes, I do actually. Yeah, I think it was called Bullfinch's Mycology. It was about
who could forget that?
Yeah. It was a mix of myth and mushrooms. Yeah,
very good. Yeah, I'm trying to guess who wrote that category.
I don't remember. Yeah.
So when you received word that you were going to get the promotion to Jeopardy writer, what was that day like for you, knowing that this dream you had first talked about at a Dodgers game was going to become a reality?
Yeah, I think the first thing I did, I called my wife, and I think she screamed pretty loudly. I was just over the moon, I was texting everyone who kind of helped along the way. I kind of, worked myself up from a PA on different game shows, before Jeopardy 2, and doing a bunch of odd jobs, and, kind of getting the foot in the door was tough. And, a lot of people along the way, like my friend at the Dodgers game and another production coordinator introduced me to the researchers on other shows, so I kind of figured out how to do the job. It's really kind of takes a community of people sometimes to really help you.
Absolutely. And the game show community out here in Los Angeles is fantastic.
Yeah, totally
wonderful
is.
people.
Yeah.
And so
not long after.
Yeah, you come on board as a writer because I remember approving your promotion, but in the back of my mind, I was thinking, oh, I hope there isn't a writer's strike. And of course, just 3 months later, the writers go out on strike, and so one of your first acts as writer is to walk out of the building. That must have been a shock.
Oh yeah, I was kind of warned ahead of time, but I figured I had to do it.
Yeah, you got to be, a WGA member and get to experience all sorts of parts of that early on. Obviously,
totally.
The picket lines.
Yeah, met all kinds of writers, and that was really cool too. And whenever you said that you were a Jeopardy writer, I think Billy and Michelle said this when they were on too, you got like a certain look and, this kind of dazzle in the eyes, and people would always say, oh, my father loves that show, or like my grandfather loves that show. And I think one of the writers, Jim, he would always say, well, we love your father, or we love your grandfather.
Well, one thing you knew on the picket lines is when the strike did end, and we all hoped it would end sooner than it ended up finalizing, you had a place to come home to. You had Jeopardy. So I know your first category to air actually aired, I believe, when you were on strike on May 3rd, 2023, because, of course, we tape things ahead of times. There's Gold in Them Thar Hills. What was it like to, I don't know if you watched it that evening at home, but what's it like to sit down and watch Jeopardy and be like, I wrote that. Those are my words.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I actually had a game with all my friends and family to see have them guess which one I wrote, and I think it was the same night as Sax Education, and I'm a big jazz guy, so they figured that was me, but then they also remembered, oh yeah, you've in your 20s, one of your get-rich schemes was to try to figure out how to gold pan and make that a viable thing. So a few people guessed it, but not too many. It was a little left field for some people, I think. But.
Yeah, and certainly in terms of the, I sort of play a game when I read the material. Before I look at the initials that sit at the top of the category, I very often try to guess who's written them, and over the past year, I've become pretty good at Marcus divining. I've become quite good at panning for Marcus.
Yeah.
And I don't think There's Gold in Them There Hills has been was a very strong precursor to where you've been exploring for the rest of the year.
Not quite. Yeah, it was. It was definitely from left field.
Well, you reference the initials. People may not know, but because that's the way you access the database, all of your material is referenced. Your MJB.
MJB. Yeah.
Those are your three.
Yep.
And so yes, at the top of every category, you can see the database code for who wrote the category and also who researched it. And on social media, I think they're also beginning to take a liking to your categories because some of your work is going viral. It's like that was a Marcus category, rap words and phrases on February 1st. Michael, this is the gave us our favorite thing.
The category that gave us the very viral skirt moment. That one of my favorite Jeopardy posts of all time, and it was not done by our social media team. It was a viewer watched this at home, and they watched Michael Mankus give the correct response to that clue. And what they wrote on the bottom of the camera, on the screen was Jeopardy be Wildin'. And I just love Jeopardy be Wildin'. And that is
t-shirts.
And Jeopardy be Wildin' is because of you, Margus. But all of those clues, an early citation for this term for jewelry goes back to a song featuring Lil Wayne.
That's right, for
bling. Bling. What is bling?
Yeah.
There is no need to have a dental item for doing this. A word meaning showing off. Dr. Dre rhymed it with slousin'.
Yeah, that'd be flossing.
Yeah, wonderful material.
Yes, thank you.
All of it playing so well for us on social media.
Yeah.
And just, what we constantly talk about is expanding the canon. I think all the time is that our game board basically says on a nightly basis to the American audience, this is what's on the test.
Totally.
To be a modern American, this is what we want you to know. And it may be Herodotus. It may be a particular aspect of South American geography or medieval or Renaissance history or art. But it could also be Dr. Dre.
Modern day American poet,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm happy to bring any kind of, diverse perspective, and, everything I write is just pretty fun.
Do you have a feeling when you pen a category, I think that one's going to really sing?
Yes. Sometimes I'm like, oh, this is a banger. I think it was the...
they should all be bangers, Marcus.
Yeah,
I want every category to be a banger.
A quota of bangers.
Yeah, But sometimes you especially know. I think it was the pop culture before and after. When I did that one, I was like, okay, this one's probably gonna hit pretty well. You're always kind of worried that maybe they won't get that many of them, and you're like, oh, am I messing up?
Yeah, the dreaded triple stumper.
Yeah, you're in moments of doubt like that, but at the same time, it's like, but the pun or the wordplay is kind of worth it sometimes.
Yeah, but I think there's the thing. I made a point in a meeting the other day is I really think that our contestants are getting better at sports, and I think the point was made to me. This may be because you talk about sports so much, Michael, that our contestants have learned that they better know sports coming in. So I think it's a little bit sort of self-prophesizing. Is that the more we write about these other things, the more people realizes, oh, that's going to be on the test. We better make sure we know about it. Exactly. I also hope that they listen to these songs and they understand these pop culture references and they really live the trivia rather than just learn it, of course.
Yeah, because these things are now part of the zeitgeist. These are America doesn't have much of a monoculture, but there are things that everyone, I think, should probably know before they come on the show.
Absolutely.
And now, a quick word from our sponsor.
Selling a little or a lot? Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage? Shopify's there to help you grow. From their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person point-of-sale system, wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US. Plus, they have the internet's best converting checkout, 36% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms. What I love about Shopify is how simple they've made it to grow your business. You can manage inventory, track payments, and view real-time insights all in one place. Shopify is there to support your success every step of the way because businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Jeopardy, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Jeopardy now to grow your business no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/Jeopardy. Did you know that learning actually makes a sound? It's true. Listen. That's the sound of you learning a new language with Babbel. Be a better you in 2024 with Babbel, the science-backed language learning app that actually works. Babbel's designed by real people for real conversations. Plus, their tips and tools are approachable, accessible, and delivered with conversation-based teaching, so you're ready to practice what you've learned in the real world. Babbel's helped me learn real-life conversation skills that make it so easy to learn everything from ordering food to asking for directions while traveling. Plus, all of Babbel's 14 language courses are backed by their 20-day money-back guarantee. Here's a special limited-time deal for our listeners. Right now, get 55% off your Babbel subscription, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/InsideJ. Get 55% off at babbel.com/InsideJ, spelled BABBEL.com/InsideJ. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Now, back to Inside Jeopardy. You mentioned, growing up, watching the show with your parents.
Yeah.
They were in the audience recently, and I believe Ken Jennings even gave them a shout out. What's it like to hear Ken Jennings acknowledging your work as well?
Oh, that was so cool. And also, my parents were just over the moon. They're been my number one supporters, along with my wife, and they're still talking about it. I don't think they're going to stop for a while.
So where does the writer inspiration strike you? So, obviously you come here, you've got a very nice office, you've got a good setup in the the Jeopardy Writers Library.
Yeah.
But I know as a writer myself, sometimes inspiration comes to you in weird places. Where do those ideas tend to hit you?
Some things it's like, oh, this is based on like a life experience. Like the gold thing, I tried, gold panning. I did one about like canneries because I, for a summer went up to Alaska and worked at a cannery.
Good.
Things like that. Otherwise, it's really like conversations over the weekend or something. Like, how can I build on that and like make it a category? Once you kind of get started on the job, you just kind of look at everything. Like, every article you read, there's always like some nugget where you're like, there's something there. I don't know what yet, but like I can kind of form this out and build upon it to make it at least a clue. And then after that, you're kind of staring to figure out how to write the rest of those like 6 or 7 clues.
Yeah, in my phone, I have a number of 3 clue categories in my phone that I've sort of come to a screeching halt with the ability to finish them.
Yeah, and and some of the job is like staring at the computer and bleeding, as like Hemingway said. But I also think it is pretty collaborative. I go to the writers a lot. I'm new. I've been doing it for like a year. These other writers have been doing it now for like some for 20 years, some for I don't want to out them to say how long, but.
More than 20.
Yeah, more than 20, hundreds of years.
Yeah.
But I just go to every single one of the writers because everyone has their expertise. It's kind of like the Avengers. I do really try to make it as collaborative as possible because I'm still new at it.
Of all the categories you've written and that have aired, what is the one that you are proudest of or perhaps feel is the most signature? If you had to frame one category, if we had to make you an art piece and frame a clue or a category in your bathroom, what would it be?
I think I liked hip-hop literary references. I think that one, it was, I think no one really believed it too. Or they were like, wait, is this really going to work? And I was able to come up with, I think more than 9 even, and it was just like they just kind of kept coming.
That's so good.
But that was
my
favorite
too.
Yeah.
Well, that sort of crosses the canon, right?
Exactly.
It crosses the whole expanse of the canon from literature into hip hop, and it just also illustrates the point you made that all of that is within the zeitgeist.
Totally.
And all art connects to each other in some way, and great literature, great writing, connects to the great writing and the great art of hip hop.
Exactly. From Andre 3000 to Charles Dickens.
It's all poetry.
Yeah.
I think in the world of dream jobs, Jeopardy writer is certainly up there. I know it's one of the questions that gets asked, most often. How do you become a Jeopardy writer? What's it like to be living your dream job?
Living the dream, because sometimes you joke around in the morning, say like living the dream, and then
Yep.
but in this case, it's true. It's a lot of hard work and a lot of learning on the job, but I think that any job where you just get to sit down and be creative for as long as you want, you got to just kind of hold on to it and work your hardest at it, because it's really something special.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, we are so thrilled to have you as a part of the writing team. I think you've just added such a beautiful voice, and I look forward every time we tape to see what you've come up with. And we're heading back to the studio this week, so we'll see what you have for us as we go into regular shows.
Regular shows again. That's
New
right.
contestants. It'll be good.
Yeah. Can't wait.
Back to the library, Marcus. Make them all bangers. I want all of them to be bangers.
Right like the wind, right?
Yeah.
Jeopardy be wildin'. Thanks, Marcus.
Oh, Marcus Brown. Very good voice. Could replace one of us on the podcast tomorrow.
And I don't think we can swap places. So
yeah,
we need to
exactly.
keep Marcus to writing.
Yeah, it's very true.
Well, that wraps up today's show, Michael. As always, we will be back on Monday for more game highlights as we enter the Tournament of Champions last semifinal and the first to 3 win finals.
Can't wait. See you all then.
See you then.
For more great Jeopardy videos,
hit the subscribe button below.